This is the Rich Dad Radio Show. The good news and bad news about money. Here's Robert Kiyosaki.
Hello. This is Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show. The good news and bad news about money. And that song is, I think, Over the Rainbow. I think it was about Julie Garland or something like that. It's a long time ago. But the reason we chose that song is because many people actually believe if I get rich, then I'll be happy. Or if I meet the man or woman of my dreams, then I'll be happy. Or if Obama or Hillary gets elected, then I'll be happy. And that's really not the real life here. And so that's kind of, fantasy land. So our guest today is Mike Lindell. Now, for those of you who live in America and primarily like Australia, New Zealand, and now England, you may know him as a gentleman with MyPillow, one of the most successful product launches in history. And everybody knows who Mike Lindell is in America, Australia, New Zealand, and now England. And he's the inventor and CEO of MyPillow. He's an entrepreneur, speaker, and author. And MyPillow is American-made. They employ over 1,500 in his home state of Minnesota. Imagine that, 1,500 employees. And many of his employees are recovering addicts. So this man is doing a lot of social good. He's doing a fantastic job. But we're going to talk about here that just because you're successful and rich doesn't mean you're happy. And so Mike's going to talk about some of the challenges he's had, some of the ups and downs he's had, but more importantly, the perseverance to keep going. Any comments, Kim?
Oh, yeah, this is going to be a really dynamic show because Mike is quite the character and quite the entrepreneur. He has an incredible story to tell. And Robert, as you're saying, for anybody who is an entrepreneur or is thinking of becoming an entrepreneur, this is going to be a great show because, yeah, there's a lot of ups and downs that you face as you build your business. And Mike has seen the ups and the downs, and he's now sold 45 million MyPillows.
Imagine that, a category called pillows. I would never have thought of that.
45 million, and infomercials, TV.
Kim and I own 2 of them.
We do. Social media, radio, he's everywhere. So, Mike, I'm so proud to have you on our show. Thank you for being here.
As a dear friend of Donald Trump, and which gets him into a lot of trouble because a lot of people hate Trump, even though, Mike Lindell employs 1,500 people. And the people that hate him don't employ anybody. I mean, imagine that. So, Mike, right. Are you an overnight success? I mean, it was just said one day, wake up and say, "Oh, I need a new pillow," and it was overnight success. Is that your story?
No, that's not my story. Thanks for having me on, you guys. But we'll go right to when I invented. I was always an entrepreneur, but I never had any money. I never was able to use a bank, and so I would, if I'd see a need for something, like my sister flooded a 3rd-story building of a waterbed back in the 80s, and I became a carpet cleaner. I worked at my uncle's farm in Iowa, and I said, why is he getting all the money? I can go raise these pigs, and I went and bought feeder pigs, and they were at an all-time high, and I borrowed money from a bank, and that time I did borrow some money, and we were kind of across where rural comes into urban, a neighborhood, and I put all these pigs there, and they I had all kinds of problems. They get out all the time into people's yards, and well, anyway, the bottom fell out of the market, and I lost everything. And different things. I was a professional card counter. I owned bars, restaurants where I wouldn't have money, but I'd buy them on contract for deed, and very, very driven. And when I invented MyPillow, when I spent 1.5 years inventing it, and when I did get the first prototype already, I go, wow, I have a pillow now that you can now adjust. You can wash and dry it. It lasts 10 years. But more importantly, it gives you the best sleep in history where you move it and it holds there. It's like a customized pillow that you can adjust for yourself.
Well, what caused you to invent the thing? What
caused me to invent is I had the same problem. I found out everybody has. I couldn't sleep, and it wasn't just because I was a cocaine addict.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
But I couldn't sleep. My pillows would go flat. I'd use my arm. I'd wake up with headaches or neck aches. I was seeing a chiropractor. I'd come back, and 3 days later, it'd be, hurting again. And I knew it was pillows. I knew it was about height, not firmness. Everybody wants a soft pillow, but they want it to stay there. Like if you adjust it for your neck, for your height, sleep's about the distance from your head to your bed, to hold that there. And that's, down pillows being the worst, where you use your arm and your pillows collapse and you end up sleeping on your arm and your arm goes to sleep. But that was the main problem. I wanted to be able to adjust. It's the only product ever sold where we all have different shoe sizes and shirt sizes. Why don't they give us different pillow sizes or for height, and that would stay there?
So when you invented it, was it immediate success? Did you put it into stores? What did you do once you invented it?
That's right. That's what I'm saying. Once I got the prototype, I went into, actually it was a Bed Bath & Beyond store. I went in there first. I said, I go into these, and then I went into multiple box stores. I went in there with such passion. I have the best pillow in history. Where's your buyer? Where's your buyer? One of the stores said, you need to leave right now. You must be on drugs, but I wasn't that day. And but anyway, either that or yes, I am. But anyway, I was turned down everywhere, and someone said, Mike, why don't you do a kiosk? And I said, how do you spell that? and I ended up doing this kiosk. I didn't work many of the days. I mortgaged my house. We were completely broke at the time. We had 4 little kids, and I went all in. And there was one guy I sold a pillow to there, and he said, "You have a business card?" I said, "Oh, I'm all out." And I wrote my number on a piece of paper. And he happened to call in January of that year, and he said, "Are you the guy that invented this pillow for you from Minnesota?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I run the Minneapolis Home and Garden Show." He said, "This pillow created a miracle in my life. It changed my life." He said, "Can you would you come in and have a booth in my show?" I said, "Sure." And then I went into the show, and I actually set the booth up differently and with a table out front, because I couldn't talk to people back then. I had a fear of unworthiness, rejection going all the way back when I was a kid, so I was very introverted at times. Well, anyway, but being behind that table, I could talk to people. I started selling, and it just took off. It exploded that day. I got in the Minnesota State Fair, and I did shows and fairs for like 7 years.
Wow.
But very, going show to show and fair to fair and selling it anywhere there was people. But it was, and during that time, though, that was a parallel railroad track. I was into crack cocaine. I was a crack addict, and so if I wasn't, obviously I wouldn't be doing drugs at the shows, but it would be stealing from me and betrayal, and all these other things were happening. But
as you're building this business, and you're going to all these shows, and you're going to all these fairs, and you're selling all these pillows, you were a crack addict. You must have been
full blown.
Wow.
Full blown, and I had to pick and choose. If I did the shows, I couldn't. Anybody that's been a crack addict, nobody. You get too paranoid. You're peeking out windows, but I would do. I would refrain from doing it. I never broke trust with the show promoters, but I lost a 20-year marriage. I lost. The company was just a pulse at times because people that I broke bread with would try and steal it. I had other manufacturer that came in and said, "Hey, we can manufacture this for you." I was very fortunate to get a patent, so at least I could always make my own pillow. But I was told that I better get a patent because it lasted 10 years, and it was that if I didn't get a patent, that the big companies would go behind me and get a patent. It'd be like the cars that got 200 miles a gallon; they would never put it on the market. But I ended up quitting crack at January 16, 2009, and that we can talk about that in a second. But then there was nothing left, and I went to get my company back. So on January 16, 2009, I quit all my, I was the pillow company. It was down to I had basically lost everything. Where I was just doing a few shows, and these guys that had worked for me, they copied the pillow, and they were taking everything. And it was getting really bad. And they
So your own employees ripped you off?
Yeah, they took and they decided to leave. And I was kind of an addict. I wasn't an addict you would think of that would use people. I gave them the shirt off my back. I was always a giver, and they decided that they would basically steal the company. I had another company came in when I tried to actually have people buy into the company, and they did that, and they fired me at the first board meeting. It was everybody tried to take my pillow. They tried to take it, either the manufacturing, copy it, steal it. I mean, but on January 16, 2009, when I quit everything overnight, all my addictions, and I prayed to God, I said, to free me from these and not have the desire. And anyway, to add this story, so I wake up the next day and it's gone. And I did end up going to a faith-based treatment center a couple of months later. But at that time, I felt so relieved that I just wanted to go get my company back. I didn't have any money, nothing left, but I had to get $30,000 to buy back my fabric from the guys that were taking my company. And I went into these guys I didn't even know a week later, and they were all wearing suits. I was really afraid of guys that ate with 2 forks or more and wore suits. And so they, because I had this fear of talking. By then, coming off drugs, I couldn't talk to 2 people in the same room. But anyway, I walked into this meeting. I didn't even know these guys, to borrow $30,000 with no collateral. And I walk in there, and there's 8 of them. There's a CEO, a CIO, a CFO, all these Cs. And I'm going, and I'm wearing a, and they're all wearing suits and ties. I'm wearing a T-shirt, holding a pillow, and with 3 jars of my patented foam. And they go, I said, yeah, I want to borrow $30,000, and I'll give you $40,000 back in 2 months, and I'm going to do home shows and fairs like I used to do. These guys took my company and all this. They're trying to copy my pillow, and I said, I need the $30,000 cash to buy my fabric back. I used to be a crack cocaine addict. I'm going to do shows. And the one guy in the corner goes, well, when did you quit crack? And I said, last Thursday. And he goes, and 4 of them got up and left the room. And the other 4 sitting there listened to me. But I had such passion. It was so believable. They ended up doing it. Wow. I think God just said, here, this is a divine appointment. And I walked out of there. They didn't even check my license. The reason I know that is because I didn't have one. But then it got up to on October 7th, 2011. I started doing home shows and fairs again. I said, you know what? If no one's going to take my pillow, I'm going to bring it right to the people, and I'm going to do an infomercial. And we went to film it on the night before we filmed it in August of 2011. They brought in a real producer, and we were doing our reads. And the guy said, he texted the other guy, said, this is the worst guy I've ever seen. He's never going to make it on TV. Why did you even invite me here? And but it aired October 7th, 2011. I was living in my sister's basement, and I had like 5 employees, and 40 days later, I had 500 employees.
After the infomercial aired.
Yeah.
What a really, really great story, Mike. And what I appreciate is the forthrightness, because one thing about the Rich Dad radio shows, we say it's the good news and the bad news. And a lot of times people only tell the good news. One day I was broke, and the next day I'm a multimillionaire, and my life is perfect. Everybody's happy, which is a bunch of BS. So I thank you for being so forthright. Wait, Mike, we got to go to break. So hold what you're going to say. It's a fabulous story, and I just want to commend you and thank you for being so forthright. When we come back, Mike will be going more into what he's learned, but most important, you guys are hearing it from him directly, and guess what? The story gets worse. We'll be right back. Welcome back, Robert Kiyosaki of the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. And the reason we play that song, Over the Rainbow, is so many people live in la-la land, somewhere over the rainbow. If I do this, then I'll be happy. If I become a millionaire, I'll be happy. If I invent this product, I'll be happy. If I get married, I'll be happy. And those days really do not exist. So today we're talking to Mike Lindell. He is the inventor and CEO of MyPillow. And again, we're an international program, and MyPillow is one of the most successful products ever made. And Mike took a pillow, which is something most of us have seen and used, but he took it and built a multimillionaire business out of it. But it's not really about the pillow. It's about the process of being such a fabulous entrepreneur. So once again, you can listen to the Rich Dad radio program anytime, anywhere on iTunes or Android. And all of our programs are archived at richdadradio.com. We archive it because repetition is how we learn. So if you listen to this interview again with Mike Lindell, inventor and CEO of MyPillow, and especially if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be happy, or you're a crack cocaine addict or whatever addict you are, because everybody's addicted to something, you listen to this program again, you'll pick up even more the second and third time. But more importantly, discuss this program with friends, family, and especially business associates, especially those who are stealing from you. You've got to be very careful today. So once again, that's at richdadradio.com. This program is archived. Any comments, Kim?
Well, what I like about Mike's story is, similar to how we started with Rich Dad Poor Dad with the cash flow game. We did things kind of backwards because people said, this is the way you're supposed to do it. This is how publishing works.
Or it'll never work.
This is how the game industry works.
If you build it, people will they come and all that stuff. And all the doubters.
Yeah, and we went against everything that they said. And this is what Mike's been saying. He's went against everything that people are telling him how to do it. And he's like, I'm going to do it this way. And even in the infomercial business, I mean, you're one of the most recognized people in the U.S. because of your infomercials. They're everywhere and on the radio, and everybody knows you and recognizes you.
And I did infomercials too, Mike. And then the producer said the same thing because I got into a fight with them.
They wanted you to read a script,
yeah.
And Mike doesn't do a script, right?
And I said, look, I can't read. No, it wasn't that. I said, I refuse to say what you want me to say. I refuse to say it. And he and I went toe to toe.
I go through that, and back when we did that infomercial, he wasn't too far off. We went out there the next day to film, and there was a real audience and a friend of mine, and I was so scared, and they did have a script, and I said, it took 9 takes to read that script for one line, and I said, I just want to do this naturally, and I want to make it like real to the people, the truth, and we did it, and we did it in the one day there, and now what happened, though, was I just wanted to make pillows, and they go, Mike, we exploded from 5 to 500 employees. They go, Mike, you need to be CEO. I go, why do I need to be a CEO? We got to get these pillows out. And we need an HR department. I said, that sounds horrible. We need a corporate attorney. I said, that even sounds worse. And we took the next 6 months, I took in $100 million. I called my friend. I go, Tom, do you know that ATMs don't go to the 5th or the 7th digit? He goes, no, Mike, I didn't know that. Well, it was just surreal for me. But when the dust cleared in June, I was almost $6 million in debt, and I didn't use a bank. And I'm going, God, I said, I'm praying. I'm going, what am I going to do? I can't. The rest of my life is ruined.
What happened? How did you get from $1 million revenue to $6 million in the hole?
Well, to $100 million, I took in $6 million. What happened was I went to companies and I said, is this the best deal you have? I said, I'm going to sell. I predicted I would do that much, and nobody could believe me. So they go, oh, yeah, that's the best price, for that. So I didn't negotiate prices, but more important is we were buying media, and nobody knew if it was the right media. I had other people doing that and other companies doing that. So basically, it was kind of like greed on steroids. Everyone was being greedy. Everyone was going, wow, taking advantage of this phenomenon that no half-hour infomercial had been that successful at that time ever. And anyway, but I'll tell you what, if you're an entrepreneur out there, any deviations or blocks, deviations is what you really got to look at. And I looked at 2012, and I took everything in-house. All my own advertising, everything, every spot, everything is done. Now it comes right through us, where we track every single outlet like it's our only business. I remember when I had no money on the road. So, like, let's say it's a newspaper in Dubuque, Iowa. I might I'll treat that just like it's my only one. And if it doesn't make its number, if it doesn't break even or make money, I don't run an ad in it. And if there's a spot on TV, it either has to break even or make money a little bit. And I learned so much from 2012, which would have been anyone else would have said, this is devastating, it's over. And we just picked everything up and just moved on and learned. And it took a long time to dig out of that. But we did dig out, and then it got to be 2014, and we did a 1 and a 2 minute commercial, and then I did print. Everything I did was different. They go, Mike, you need an actor to be in your thing, and I said, why? I don't have money to pay someone some big star to be in there. And I said, you need to brand. I said, I don't have money to brand. I need to make to make money here. Well, and then they did a newspaper ad, and instead of having some beautiful lady acting like she's sleeping on a bed or a pillow, here's some geek holding a pillow, some guy going, the most comfortable pillow you'll ever own, but people, they resonated what was real. And I wrote the ad myself, a newspaper ad. PR companies are calling me going, what, did you write this ad yourself? This is horrible. We can make you so much money.
Yes.
And I'm going, and so we learned. I just learned a lot from that, and once we got back, and then I just things, doing all our own advertising and keeping control on it. I micromanage and macromanage, but being able to, as an entrepreneur, to learn those deviations. And by the way, the patents. When you get a patent. Patents are important because you can at least always make the product yourself. That my pillow would have been shut down a long time ago, and they would have never put it on the market because it lasts 10 years. But I always tell entrepreneurs there is no better time than right now, especially in the U.S., because everything with jobs up so much now and wages, you have a safety net that I didn't have, or that not many people had like they have right now. You can go out. I see entrepreneurs taking chances and inventing great products and getting into business for themselves, because if they fail, they could go get a great job anywhere, and that's what's so nice to have that now. But otherwise, people live in fear. And when you said before on your show about entrepreneurs, once you get, like right now I have 1,500 employees we take in. We're a $500 million company, and I haven't changed. And for me, my happiness lies in the fact that I have so much passion for people. Say, Mike, how do you have this much passion for a pillow 15 years later? Because it helps people. I love helping people. That's my calling. My pillow is just a bigger platform anyway for God and for evangelism and helping addicts, giving back. And
you actually employ many recovering addicts, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. And I've got a network starting now where across the country with the president's help and the administration helping addicts. That's my thing. I want to wipe out the opiate addiction in this country and within just as fast as it came on.
Well, Mike, one of the great stories I heard about you is that the guys that you used to buy the crack from finally they rescued you too, right? They cut you off. Your own suppliers.
Yeah, that's a great story. So back in 2008, and anybody out there, everybody's got dreams, but we don't. I think so many people have lost hope. I never lost hope, but it was in March of 2008, and I was downtown Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I had been up for 14 days doing crack, and things were so bad. Usually I would try and stay up until I got things solved, but that time it wasn't working. And I came out of I was downtown, worst part of town, and I came out of the bathroom, I guess, and all three of the biggest drug dealers in the cities were standing there, and they knew of each other, but they had never met. And I go, what's going on? They go, you're getting cut off. I go, what is this, an intervention? They go, you call it whatever you want. And the one guy said, he goes, he's not getting anything from my guys, and he left in disgust. The other one went down to the streets, and it was his house, and he never came back. So now I looked down, I had a couple crack rocks left, and I smoked them, and the other guy that had called the intervention, he fell asleep. So at 2:30 in the morning, I went down to the streets, and I could not buy crack anywhere. They had gotten the word out. I come upstairs an hour later, and I walked in, and he's sitting there, and he goes, how'd that work out for you? And he goes, give me your phone. And he took a picture. He says, you're going to need that for your book. He says, you've been telling us for years that this pillow thing is just a platform for God, and you're going to come back and help us all some days get out of this addiction and this world, a world we're living in down here. And it's interesting enough because it has come full circle. Those two of those guys work for me now, and they've been saved, and they're working for me. They're drug free. They don't deal anymore, and it's. But I did back then. That was my dream. That was my dream was to. Even myself, I knew that I would end up getting off of drugs but I had. That was my dream.
That's
it wasn't
great,
like at that time going.
Great, fantastic.
Such a great story.
Hey, Mike, I have one more story I want you to tell. So congratulations. That's really the best story ever. Is you help each other get off your addictions, but also your advertising has caused problems with the Better Business Bureau, the state of California, and they come after you no matter how much good you do. These so-called elites come after you. You create all these jobs in Minnesota, and the Better Business Bureau of Minnesota comes after you. California comes after you. They want to shut you down. What's with all that?
Let's add one more crooked group to that. That's called truthinadvertising.org, the most corrupt group I've ever seen, right next to the Better Business Bureau. Now, I didn't. Now, back then, in 2016, I met Donald Trump before he was president. He reached out to me in a private meeting, and I walked into his office, and I wasn't political. I was an ex-crack addict. I didn't know anything about politics, and I was like somebody with a clean slate that came out of a coma. And anyway, he reached out to me, and I walked in his office in Trump Tower in New York, and it was just him and I. And he says, "Mike, you always wear your cross." He says, "Are you a Christian?" I said, "Yes, Mr. Trump. This is a divine appointment." And we sat down and talked about the inner city. He said what he was going to do, how he was going to bring the jobs back, and how he was so proud of My Pillow having all these jobs here in the USA. And when I walked out of his office, I said, "You know what? I don't know much about politics, but this guy's going to be the most pragmatic, greatest president in history." And I talked to his employees, and they were just like talking to my employees. They all loved him. So I went all in. I felt that God led me, told me to just go all in, no matter what the cost would be or what the stakes would be. I had people on my board warn me, "You can't do that. You're going to hurt our business." And well, they were kind of right, because as soon as I went all in, the Better Business Bureau and made a thing. My ads have been running. It was a buy one, get one free. And they said, according to our little bylaws, you can't run them. We're going to lower your rating if you don't stop running them. And I said, I'm not going to take away my special before Christmas for my customers. And I said, what are you guys talking about? I've been running it for 2 years, and I was up for their Torch Award, their highest award for customer service in the history of the Better Business Bureau. And it was all political. Them, the truthinadvertising.org, the crooked lawyers in California, they all came after My Pillow. They did a press release on January 2nd, 2017, after the president won. And I was in Toronto, Canada, doing a show, and my phone just blew up. My dad ended up going to the hospital for 6 months on the same day that every media in this country was waiting. The Better Business Bureau lowered my rating from an A+ to an F over a buy one, get one free because of my customers. You know what they told me? I want to put this out there. I've never said this before on any radio. I said, why can't I do this? Well, once you run it for so long, we don't believe it, then it's not really on sale. I said, everyone in the world says a retail price and a sale price. A manufacturer suggests retail. And they said, well, you're your own manufacturer, Mike. And I said, so if I made it overseas and they told me the regular price or retail price that would be okay, and they said yes. I said, you ought to be ashamed of yourselves. I said, everyone in this room should be ashamed. And I said, you just well give me an F because nobody will believe it. And by golly, they did. They went from an A+ to an F. But you know what that did? Let me tell you. That made my fame in this country tenfold. From that point on, it was a household name. And everyone in this country went after the Better Business Bureau, the truthinadvertising.org, those crooked lawyers in California. They sent letters back to them. People didn't said, we're the ones that bought those pillows. They made me send them 200,000 testimonials. We sent them 200,000 testimonials of all these great things people were saying about the pillow. And they still came after me for that too, that the testimonials were too good, that they were implied claims. And it just makes me, any good thing in this country, between the lawyers in California and crooked groups like the Better Business Bureau and Truth in Advertising, it's an absolute shame. And that's one of the things that I'm going to fight for the little entrepreneurs in this country to get law changes done and get rid of corrupt groups like that.
Michael, thank you very much. A fantastic story. We have similar types of stories, but anyway, thanks for your courage. Thanks for all that you do. And you don't need any more luck because you make your own luck. So when we come back, we're going to the most popular part of our program, which is Ask Robert. For now, Mike Lindell, inventor, CEO of MyPillow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
Welcome back. Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. You can listen to the Rich Dad Radio program anytime, anywhere on iTunes or Android. And all of our programs are archived at richdadradio.com. Once again, we archive them because repetition is the best way to learn. And this is a very important show, especially for those of you who want to be an entrepreneur. So if you have friends, family, or business associates, especially business associates, listen to it because you never know whose pocket their hands are in. Be very careful. And I want to thank Mike Lindell. Again, he is the inventor and CEO of MyPillow. His website is mypillow.com, and Mike Lindell, Lindell.com. And I realize we're an international program. And for those of you outside the U.S., he is constantly on the air, very successful man. But he's had to overcome many, many personal problems like his addictions, and finally finding religion or Christ to overcome his challenges. Because what happens a lot of times when you become successful, your dark side gets successful also. So you got to be very careful. And we all have addictions. Another thing, too, is we support people being Republican or Democrat. We're not politically motivated at all, and any religion is fine with us. So we don't support any of those. Right, Kim?
That's correct. That's correct. And yeah, I got to tell you, talk about perseverance. I mean, this guy, Mike, is so passionate. But the other key is he's not just passionate, he can sell. And I would recommend, if you've never seen him, I would go to his website, mypillow.com, and watch him. I'm sure there's clips there, and you can see, I mean, he's not like this handsome, debonair guy. He's just a regular Joe, and he's just passionate about his product and about helping people. And I think for entrepreneurs, it's a great example of someone that's out there just keeps going.
He also did say he couldn't sell. He just stood at these state fairs, and he demonstrated his product. And that's how you learn. You get better and better. It's a very interesting word that most academics don't understand. It's called, you have to make mistakes. You make mistake, you correct, make mistakes, you correct, make mistakes, you correct. But in the real world, it's called practice. You got to practice. Or in theater, it's called rehearsals. And you practice and you rehearse. And, Kim has seen me practice and rehearse, make mistakes, correct, get people leave the room and all this, but I don't quit. And I think that's really the secret to his success, right?
Yeah. Oh, he never quit. Oh, man, he had so many obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, and he never took no for an answer. And the other thing is that people would say this is the way to do it, and he goes, no, that's not the way I'm going to do it, because he knew his customer and he knew his product. And it's not any different from you, Robert. You know your customer, you know your product.
And what I appreciate is a lot of these so-called suits. They think that people like myself and Lindell are stupid. And they're the ones who are stupid. They're really stupid people. They're academic types, executive types, corporate types, but they can't. The reason they're that way is because they can't sell. They can't raise capital, and they can't do any of that stuff. So they attack people that can. And that's why he's talking about Trump. He's not political, but when he met Trump, Kim and I have worked with the same staff that Mike Lindell is talking about. They're fabulous people. And these people who attack Trump who don't even know them, I have really nothing to say to them. So you guys don't even know the guy. You just attack him for whatever reason. Of course, Trump says things he shouldn't say. But other than that, they just want to attack. So anyway, it was a great show with Mike Lindell. Once again, you can submit your questions to Ask Robert at richdadradio.com. So, Melissa, what's the first question?
Our first question today, Robert, comes from Chad in Missouri. Favorite book, Cashflow Quadrant. It says, I'm starting a business, and my question is, how do you attract investors when starting out?
You got to sell, boy. You just get knocked down, stand up, knock down, stand up, knock down, and every time you correct, like when Kim and I were trying to raise money for that, it was our first big apartment house place in Aloha, Oregon or something. We got turned down. Every time a banker turned us down for the money, we just simply said, so why? Tell them, okay, so you said no. Why? What aren't we telling you? What do you want to know that we're not? Why did you say no to us? It's the most important question you can ask. Why did you say no? Remember that, Kim?
Oh, I remember that well. And we actually did. You just have to go out there, and you gotta. They're not going to come to you. You got to go to them. And I still remember our friend in Toronto, and we called him, and we sent him the deal, and he said, "I'm in for 50%." And he was a really, really smart real estate guy. And
but the bankers kept saying no.
The bankers kept saying no, but then too, when he said yes, we're like, well, he really knows what a good deal is, so this must be a really good deal. So now we're like, we're going to do it ourselves. And so again, we went back to the banks and we got creative, and
we just kept talking. And finally, it was one of our favorite guys in our whole life. His name is David Riffle. Yeah. David, if you listen to this, bless you, man, because he looked down, and I made probably my 20th presentation. They're all saying no because Kim and I had no money. My credit rating was in the toilet. Kim was great. Mine was horrible. And they kept saying no. And finally, I remember David.
Yep.
He sat there at his bank. He pulled open his drawer and he says, well, I can't say yes to you until you fill this form out. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. He said, even if I was to consider this, even if it's crazy that I would consider this, you would need to sign this document here. So we signed the document, and then he goes, congratulations, you have the money.
Yeah.
So...
And so that's
it
really
was a
where
great
most
education.
people, that's really where most people don't have it. They don't have the ability. It's called guts. I don't know what other word to call it. Guts and humility to learn. Well, they turned me down. That's what really upsets me about most of these guys running for office. And there's lots of guts to run for political office, but they're all attacking Trump. And I'm going, holy mackerel. Holy mackerel.
Well, look at Mike Lindell and listen to the show again, and he talks about wanting to raise $30,000, and he goes into this office with all these suits, and he's pitching, and then he says, "Oh, and by the way, I'm not on drugs anymore. I'm not on crack anymore. I was a crack addict, but I'm not anymore. Oh, so how long have you been off crack? Oh, a few days, since last Thursday." And 4 guys leave the room, but he got the money. He didn't quit. He kept going. He kept pitching to these other guys that were still in the room, and he got the money.
And he said he didn't want to be the CEO. He didn't want to be anything similar to me. I don't want to run the company. But you got to be very careful because I started with a nylon and Velcro surfer wallet business back in the 70s. And almost everybody steals. I hate to say that. You got to be very careful. You got to have your checks and balances in there. So it was my CFO, Stanley, the CPA, who stole my money. And then when Kim and I were really successful, we went to very famous accounting firm, Arthur Andersen. They tried to steal our money, and I sit there and I can't believe it. These guys are some of the most famous guys on earth, big name corporate guys, and thank God they're out of business in a few years later because they were so corrupt. I can't believe how many people have to steal today. They're so desperate for money. I just don't understand it. But anyway, that's life. It's what we go through every day. Next question, Melissa.
Robert, our next question comes from Evan in Phoenix, Arizona. Favorite book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He says, my question is how to protect your business. I understand asset protection, and even though you hire attorneys and try to insulate your business, people will try to steal your ideas. What are some of the ways you and Kim protect your businesses?
Well, Kim and I, our track record is much like Lindell, because we've always hired CEOs and presidents.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to run a company. I like being an entrepreneur, but I'm not an executive. And as I said, starting with my nylon and Velcro surfer wallet business in the 70s, the guys I hired all turned out to be crooks. And not that they're crooks, they just see so much money coming in, they can't help themselves because they don't know how to make the money. I think that's the problem. People are so addicted to money, and that's why Mike was talking his addiction to crack cocaine. Everybody's addicted to something. And unless you recognize that addiction, then you really can't make it. I mean, I personally work on my addictions a lot because I'm addicted. I eat too much. I get nervous. I lose my temper at times when I get those are addictions. So I don't pretend to be perfect, and I think that's what really disappoints me when you have these people who sit there smiling with their little, big smiles, and they're stealing and lying. They don't have the guts to tell you the truth. Any comments on that?
Well, you can only do so much to protect your business. I mean, you got the corporate attorneys, and you do the patents and the trademarks and all. But it's especially in the U.S., it's very litigious, and people, if you have money, people want some of it, unfortunately. So you can only protect yourself so much, but you just do the best you can.
And it's getting worse, as the national debt and corporate debt rises and all that, people have to make more and more money just to survive. Look at this gap between the rich and everybody else. And so when people are struggling just to make, buy food and health care and going to college, people are desperate today. And they could be very nice people, they wear nice clothes and drive nice cars, but people are so desperate because the people that are stealing from us start at the very top, from our government to central banks and Wall Street. They've been stealing from us for years, and that's kind of why the Rich Dad Company was formed, was to provide people a little bit of financial education to protect yourself from the very people you should be trusting. Look at the Fed, the Federal Reserve Bank. They've been ripping off the world, selling the world these toxic assets called credit default swap, MBSs, CDOs, collateralized debt obligations, and they ripped off the world. And the Fed said, okay, I'll back you up. The Fed is bankrolling Wall Street along with the U.S. Treasury. And I sit there going, and I say, okay. And I meet these financial planners and, well, you should just invest for the long term in the stock market. I'm going, geez, how can you be so stupid? But most people are. They just want somebody to tell them what to do. Right, Kim?
That's what most people just want, the simple answer, the quick fix.
Yeah, tell me what to do.
Yeah. But as talking to Mike Lindell, you can see there is no quick fix. There is no magic pill. You just got to get out there. And he to me, is the epitome of the street smart, gritty, persevering entrepreneur.
Right.
And I love his story.
With a big heart.
A big heart, yes.
1,500 jobs, many of them addicts like him. He even hired the crack addicts who were supplying him, cleaned them up.
Story.
So there's always something more than money. And I'm afraid most people don't have that other thing that's more important than money. They'll steal from anybody. So with that, once again, I thank Mike Lindell. Thank you for your questions. You can submit your questions to Ask Robert at RichDadRadio.com.
quên bao năm tháng qua, nhưng trong trái tim không bao giờ xa. Lời mẹ ru con hiu hiu chưa hẹn mùa lụt